Ever wonder how a political career can be shaped by both family ties and controversy? Let's explore the curious case of Max Miller.
Hey, I'm Garrett, feeling pretty curious today about our topic.
I'm Leah, and I'm all set to dive into the fascinating world of politics with you. Welcome to Laid Back Learning with Leah and Garrett.
All right, let's set the stage for this one. Today we're talking about Max Miller, the Ohio politician whose career is full of twists and turns.
Picture this. I once went to a local political rally expecting stump speeches and a lukewarm coffee. Then a protest group rolled in, the mic cut out, and a candidate tried to improvise with a bullhorn that squealed every time he moved it. It was messy, tense, and honestly kind of gripping. And it reminds me of Max Miller's public life. He keeps showing up at these moments where politics collides with spectacle and controversy, from big rallies to high-profile committee fights. That sense of unpredictability, it follows him like a drumbeat.
So, basics first. Max Miller is a U.S. representative from Ohio's 7th Congressional District. He's a Republican, closely aligned with former President Donald Trump. Before Congress, he worked in the Trump administration. That included a stint at the Treasury Department as a confidential assistant, then White House roles in advance operations and the Presidential Personnel Office, which is the internal shop that vets and places people in administration jobs.
And the way he moved from staff roles to Congress feels like a roller coaster. Big climbs with access and endorsements, sharp drops with controversies, and some unexpected turns along the way. He relocated to the Cleveland area, ran after redistricting reshaped districts, and won his seat in 2022. He was re-elected in 2024, and he's been angling for a third term in 2026. The through line is a strong pro-Trump identity and a focus on foreign affairs, even as storms keep popping up around him.
When we say advance operations, just to clarify, we mean the logistics team that sets up events, manages site details, and gets the principal in and out smoothly. It's like being the quarterback for everything behind the scenes. He also helped organize the 2020 Republican National Convention and worked on presidential debate logistics, which suggests a real level of trust from Trump's inner circle. That trust later translated into campaign backing when he ran for Congress.
Let's open the book on his early days. The family backdrop matters here. Max Miller grew up in Northeast Ohio, and his family is prominent. His grandfather, Samuel H. Miller, co-chaired Forest City Realty Trust, a big real estate company. His grandmother, Ruth Miller, even ran for Congress back in 1980. His uncle, Aaron David Miller, is a well-known Middle East scholar. And his cousin, Eli Miller, served on Trump's 2016 campaign and later became chief of staff at the Treasury Department.
Those connections weren't just trivia. Eli Miller introduced him to folks on the Trump 2016 campaign. That's the door that swung open, moving him from a short stop with Marco Rubio's primary campaign into Trump's orbit. From there, he climbed into those White House roles we mentioned. It's a classic example of how networks can accelerate a political trajectory.
Before that ascent, the path was unconventional. After high school, he attended the University of Arizona, then transferred to Cleveland State and graduated with a history degree in 2013. He worked retail at a Lululemon store, then joined the Marine Corps Reserve the same year. He reached corporal but didn't deploy, and later moved to the Individual Ready Reserve, which is basically a standby status without regular training unless called up.
There were early life run-ins with the law between 2007 and 2011. Things like disorderly conduct, underage drinking, resisting arrest, and an OVI, which in Ohio means operating a vehicle while impaired. Some charges were dismissed with diversion programs. He pled guilty to misdemeanors in a couple of cases. He's described those as youthful mistakes. It's part of his backstory, and it resurfaces whenever new controversies flare.
There's also a 2007 party incident reported in the press, alleging he pushed a classmate after she rejected his advances. That account hasn't been tied to a specific court case in the material we're drawing on, and it remains an allegation in reporting rather than an adjudicated fact. I want to be clear when we hit disputed territory. because accuracy really matters with personal claims like that.
Another early controversy came from his LinkedIn profile. In 2018, the Washington Post pointed out that his page had incorrectly said he was a Marine recruiter and that he graduated college in 2011. He removed those claims and attributed the errors to a relative managing the page. People debated that explanation, but the corrections stuck.
By late 2020, he was appointed by President Trump to the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Council, which is the governing body of the National Holocaust Museum. Given that he is Jewish, that appointment had symbolic weight. It also foreshadows how his identity and his foreign policy views would become tightly connected in his congressional life.
So the beginning looks like this: family networks, an unconventional resume, quick entry into Trump world, and early corrections to public-facing bio details. That set the stage for the next act. Now the middle of the story picks up with the jump to Congress. After the 2020 election, he publicly echoed Trump's false claims that the election was rigged. He also told the Washington Times that January 6 was not an insurrection, though later, when deposed by the House January 6 committee, he called the day horrific. The committee subpoenaed him for documents in late 2021 and interviewed him in early 2022, and they didn't find him culpable of wrongdoing.
He moved to Rocky River, Ohio, to run in a redrawn district that replaced much of the old 16th with the new 7th. The incumbent then, Representative Anthony Gonzalez, a Republican who voted to impeach Trump, later decided not to seek re-election. That withdrawal cleared a huge obstacle for Miller and really concentrated pro-Trump energy behind him.
Endorsements poured in. Donald Trump himself endorsed him. So did groups like Club for Growth and Turning Point Action, plus Congressman Jim Banks. In the 2022 primary, he won about 72% of the vote, then beat Democrat Matthew Diemer that November. In 2024, he won again against Diemer and independent former Congressman Dennis Kucinich.
Once in Congress, he landed on the House Foreign Affairs Committee, including subcommittees on Africa and on Oversight and Intelligence, and he also served on Ways and Means, which handles tax and benefits policy. He joined the Republican Main Street Caucus and the Republican Study Committee, which are roughly the pragmatic governing bloc and the conservative ideas bloc. It's an interesting combination.
Foreign policy turned into a signature for him. He introduced the resolution to remove Representative Ilhan Omar, a Democrat from Minnesota, from the Foreign Affairs Committee in early 2023, and it passed 2 days after introduction. He also took very hawkish positions after the October 7, 2023 Hamas attack in Israel, including statements about Gaza that drew sharp criticism for their severity.
He co-sponsored H.R. 8445 in 2024, a bill to extend protections similar to USERA to Americans serving in the Israeli Defense Forces. USERA protections are legal safeguards for U.S. service members, like job reinstatement and certain financial protections. Extending that to Americans in a foreign military is unusual and highlights how central Israel policy is to his portfolio.
Another headline moment was his role in pushing to expel George Santos, the Republican congressman from New York, who was engulfed in ethics and criminal allegations. Miller accused Santos of making unauthorized charges to his and his mother's credit cards. He confronted Santos on the House floor and called him a crook. Santos was expelled in late 2023 and later pleaded guilty in 2024 to multiple felonies unrelated to all of Miller's specific claims, but it validated the sense that something was very off there.
There was also a personal dust-up in 2023 when he criticized a tweet by Elizabeth Marbach, who worked at Ohio Right to Life. He called her Christian exclusive salvation tweet bigoted, then later apologized. Marbach's firing was, according to her and the organization, unrelated to his comment and connected instead to internal messaging disagreements. Still, it became a flashpoint on faith and politics, especially since his then-wife Emily Moreno was on the group's board.
And in 2025, he reported being targeted in an anti-Semitic road rage incident while driving to work. The other driver, Faris Hamdan, was arrested. But on the day trial was set to start, prosecutors accepted a plea to lesser misdemeanors, not including menacing, and then Hamdan filed civil claims against Miller. Surveillance video and vehicle telemetry from a Tesla were used to contest parts of the account. So that episode ended with unresolved factual disputes and lawsuits continuing.
Now to the most fraught chapter. In 2026, after Miller filed for divorce from Emily Marino in 2024, serious domestic abuse allegations emerged from her. She alleged multiple incidents, including scalding with water and threats involving a firearm. Miller denied the allegations, said she was lying, and countersued for defamation. He also described her as having bipolar disorder, which she denied. It's a contested civil battle with intense media glare.
Important note, a child abuse investigation in February 2026 did not result in charges being filed. That doesn't by itself settle the truth of the underlying claims, and the civil filings kept moving forward. But it is a key procedural outcome to keep straight when people try to make sense of it all.
Then came a very unusual political moment. Senator Bernie Moreno, a Republican from Ohio and Emily's father, publicly denounced Miller in August 2026 and called on him to resign. That's a rare intrafamily and intra-party break. It immediately shifted race ratings and concentrated attention on what had been a safer Republican seat.
Miller, for his part, vowed to keep running. He had already won his 2026 Republican primary unopposed and is facing Democrat Brian Poindexter. But the combination of the allegations, the restraining order Emily filed in July 2026, and the public rebuke from Senator Moreno has clearly tightened the race, according to national outlets reporting at the time.
It's striking how his career arc sits on two parallel tracks. On one, he's a foreign affairs-focused lawmaker pressing hawkish Israel policy, gaining appointments like the Commission to Modernize the State Department. On the other, he's navigating deeply personal, disputed allegations that have overtaken the political narrative in a once comfortable district.
So the current endpoint is this. He's still in office and running again, facing a race that's become competitive because of late-breaking controversies. There is no definitive court resolution on the major personal allegations, and a mix of legislative activity and public firestorms keeps the outcome uncertain. Here's the tough, lingering question. How should we weigh serious, disputed allegations against a sitting lawmaker when there's no criminal conviction, but there are ongoing civil cases and public statements from close family members? Do voters treat that as disqualifying or as contested noise that opponents inevitably weaponize?
Real talk. I think accountability has to come first, not in a rush-to-judgment way, but in a careful way that centers truth-finding. Civil courts can surface evidence, statements under oath matter, and even in the absence of criminal charges, patterns can emerge. Voters deserve clarity. If the facts show misconduct, it's not just a private matter. It's about public trust.
I hear that. And at the same time, campaigns are like high-octane pressure cookers. Allegations can be timed, amplified, and framed in ways that maximize political damage. I'm not saying ignore them. I'm saying the standard should be evidence, depositions, documentation, cross-checking timelines. Until then, I can imagine some voters pressing pause before rendering a final verdict at the ballot box.
So why do people land differently on this? I think it's about risk tolerance for representation. Some say wait for court outcomes. Others say the risk to constituents' trust is already too high if allegations are credible and consistent. Neither camp is crazy. They just prioritize different kinds of uncertainty.
That's fair. One guiding principle for me is transparency. If a lawmaker is facing contested claims, be upfront about what's alleged, what's denied, and what the procedural status is. In this case, no criminal charges on the child abuse front, civil suits ongoing, restraining order filings made, and a prominent family member calling for resignation. That's a lot to factor in, and it's okay for voters to weigh it heavily, even as they demand verified facts.
On the pop culture side, a couple of moments pushed him further into the national conversation. The June 2020 St. John's Church photo op with President Trump, after Lafayette Square was cleared, became one of the most scrutinized images of that presidency, and Miller was part of that advance orbit. His 2022 wedding at Trump National Golf Club Bedminster got attention too, for obvious reasons.
And the George Santos saga turned into a pop political storyline of its own. Santos, the now former Republican congressman from New York, was expelled and later pleaded guilty to multiple felonies. Miller's floor confrontation with him gave Miller a moment as the guy calling out misconduct within his own party, which played heavily across social media and cable hits. All right, let's kick around a what if. What if Representative Anthony Gonzalez had run for re-election in 2022 and faced Miller head-to-head? Gonzalez, remember, is the Republican who voted to impeach Trump. He had name recognition, incumbency, and a different brand within the party.
I think we would have seen a bruising primary that became a proxy war over Trump's hold on the party in Ohio. Money would have flooded in from national groups on both sides. Local media would have lived on that story for months. And the outcome could have set the tone for how GOP candidates in the region navigated Trump-aligned loyalty tests in the next cycles.
Politically, I could imagine two paths. One, Miller still wins, consolidating pro-Trump voters in a redrawn district and riding that endorsement wave. Two, a close split where Gonzalez's incumbency and moderate to traditional GOP pockets hold just enough ground to make it competitive, maybe even flipping the general dynamics if bruises carry into November.
Voter sentiment would have been the key. If suburban voters were ready to move past Trump-era drama, Gonzalez might have found a lane. If the party base wanted a firm Trump ally, Miller likely had the inside track. Either way, the race would have clarified which coalition truly dominated that district after redistricting.
And if Gonzalez had stayed and lost narrowly, that could still have reshaped Ohio politics. A visible, data-rich test of Trump-aligned strength versus dissent inside the party would have influenced donor strategies and candidate recruitment way beyond one seat. Stay curious and keep exploring.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time on Laid Back Learning.